Hello and welcome back to Wisdom in Action, the podcast where we explore what it takes to bridge the gap between knowing and doing, because that's where the real wisdom is born. I'm Austra, resilience coach and podcast strategist, and I created this space to have honest conversations with real experts to bring you practical insights you can apply, not just think about. Today, we are joined by Carolyn Boras. She's an RTT practitioner and a certified hypnotherapist on a mission to help overwhelmed teachers break from the stress and build a life that they don't need a holiday from. Carolyn, welcome to Wisdom in Action.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We had a really nice chat before this, so I'm looking forward to this. So to start us off, what is one piece of wisdom that changed everything once you started applying it?
One piece of wisdom I changed, I didn't change it. One piece of wisdom that I acquired was when I was a brand new teacher, like really young in my career. The best principal I ever had in my entire 45-year teaching career, he said to me, Carolyn, always remember, you do not work for a principal. A principal works for you. And when he first said that, of course, being young and inexperienced, I was aghast. Like, what do you mean I don't work for a principal because she's the authority figure? Like, what do you mean? And then he explained, and I came to realize over the years that indeed, the principal's job is to work behind the scenes. The principal's job is to support me. I am the frontline worker, and it's the principal's job to take care of all of that stuff that's swirling around behind me, like parents, media, government, kids' unruly behavior, all of that stuff. His or her job is to take that off my shoulders so that I can focus on my job. And once I understood that, it allowed me to come from a real place of power, and I found my confidence again it built my confidence instead of me just worrying, what is the principal going to think? What's the principal going to think? And, I have had opportunities over the years to tell a few principals, I don't work for you. You work for me. And I'm not saying they liked that advice, what I said, but it was the honest truth. And I think that whole that whole thing is lost in what's happening in education in the classrooms now. The stories that I'm reading on teacher Facebook threads, the things that are happening, they're absolutely shocking and they're heartbreaking. And they are not things that I had to deal with 45 years ago when I first started in teaching. I mean, I had, yes, there were behavior problems and there were parent challenges and government challenges and all of that, but not the kind of challenges that teachers are facing now. It's just, it is shocking, some of the things that are going on. So my mission now is to use the powerful tools of rapid transformational therapy, or RTT, and hypnotherapy to help as many of my colleagues as I can, because I've seen what stress has done to my colleagues over the years, and it's not a pretty sight. It really isn't. So that's the piece of advice that I've taken with me over the years.
It's actually really important leadership advice, because it's something that I heard some years ago. I don't remember who shared it, but it was about, if somebody in your team makes a mistake, it's your problem. It's your responsibility to provide them with the best environment, best tools, best resources to set them up for success.
Yes.
And if they make mistake, instead of pointing fingers and looking down on them or whatever might be the case, ask them, how can I help to get it better? How can I help you to either keep you accountable, support you, whatever might be the case, so that you can do your best job? Yes. But I think it's definitely not common approach. Usually it's like, okay, the higher I am, the more power I have, the more I can do pretty much like whatever I want, instead of actually, I'm here to help you do your best job.
Yes. And that's exactly why this particular principal was the only really great administrator I found over the last 45 years. And that was exactly because he wasn't there to get the power and the glory for himself. People came to love him as a leader because he supported his teachers. He always had your back. And it didn't matter whether, well, it did, but he had your back, even though he may not have agreed with the way you handled the situation. He always had your back, and you knew, and he knew that there would be conversations in future conversations in terms of how could you do it better next time. But he always supported you, and he also had vision. Whereas, you know, most of it, like the other administrators I worked for, I like to call them gatekeepers. They were just too interested in maintaining the status quo. They had no vision. They had no vision. But this guy, he was always looking ahead to see what do my teachers need? What can I do? What can I get for them that will make their jobs easier? So way back then, I mean, it wasn't common to have computers in the classroom for teachers the way we have now. But he found ways of getting money from the various clubs, like I want to say the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis Club, or I don't know, some kind of club in town, to donate money so that his teachers and his school could have the equipment that they needed. But the other administrators in the district looked jealously and longingly at what he was getting for their school, but they didn't have the vision to think of what they could do to get that for their teachers. So he always supported you, always. So, I mean, it really was true leadership in action that I saw. So that was a great role model for me. Not that I ever wanted to go into administration, but I knew what to look for in terms of leadership. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it over the years. But I think not all, but so many leaders, administrators want to get out of the classroom simply because they want to get out of the classroom and they can't handle being in the classroom. So they take the next step. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to be a great leader. If that's why you're doing it, to get out of the classroom because you just can't stand all of the pressures and everything that's going on, that's not a good enough reason to take the job. It's not.
Yeah, I think it's the same as like in business. A lot of people who are good at doing the task might not be good at teaching the task or managing people doing the
Exactly.
task. So it is just because it's a step up doesn't mean that it's the right or the best position for the person.
Exactly. And I think you're absolutely right. I mean, a true leader asks, how can I help you? How can I help you get better? What do you need from me? What do you need me to show you how to do? What do you need in your classroom? What materials do you need? Do you need to go and improve your skills? What do you need? And too often now, teachers aren't asked, what do you need for professional development? Professional development is just thrown at us. And the professional development tends to be the same thing over and over again. Standards, report cards, assessments, standards, report cards, assessment. And teachers don't get asked, what do you need for professional development? I'm a professional. I know where there are gaps in my teaching this year. I know what I need to do. Don't tell me what I need for professional development. And and it would seem to me that could also apply in the business world as well. I mean, I would think that there are leaders who say, this is what you're doing. Everybody has to attend this conference for
I
whatever
think it
reason.
applies to everything, even with being a parent. Like, how can you help your kids to get better if you don't have two-way conversation and you tell them you have to do this, or like you have to go and play soccer
Yes.
without checking in with the kid. Do you even want to do that? And I think
Yes.
it's something that it can be, I think with power or whatever, greed, whatever added, it can get, or it can disrupt that two-way conversation where just because you're
Mm.
at the, not even the lower position, that's the position that you're at. I'm here, you're here. Well, technically my job is actually to help you to do your job better.
Yes.
But I think that my job is to tell you what to do, kind of thing, or point you what to do, instead of I'm actually being the leader where I lead from the front. I
Yes.
think when that happens, that's when you literally, as a leader, at that point, I think it's hard to call that person leader, but you don't really listen anymore to the people that you work with. You
That's
just
right.
tell them what to do instead of actually
That's right.
listening and getting that
That's
feedback.
right. And when people don't feel that they have agency, then they start to just withdraw, and they
Yeah.
start to do what's the phrase now?
Yeah.
Silent quitting. They just give up, or like from a teacher's perspective, then teachers just start to withdraw. They stay in their class. They just close their door, and they don't want to hear, no, see, talk to anybody outside of their classroom, and because their classroom is the only place where they feel that they have any kind of control. But
Um,
from what I'm hearing and reading, there is so much micromanaging going on. I'm a professional. You hired me to do a job. Trust that I am doing my job.
it's
Trust.
such a hard thing. Micromanaging is such a hard thing. I remember when like I had the editor that started to work with me, and I was like,
Mm.
I don't want to be the micromanager. What can I do to also deal with myself? Because I'm like, I have certain standard I want to
Yes.
uphold, and I'm like, can I trust that person to do it? And I would have conversation with her. I'm like, I don't want to be micromanaging. How can we find a way where you don't feel like
Yes.
I'm micromanaging you while we still maintain this standard? But it's
Yes.
a two-way conversation. Again, it's not
Yes.
just, oh, you need to do this.
Yes.
Nobody likes that. You still want to have that sense of, even if you're at, again, I don't really believe in lower, higher position, but if you do the
Yeah.
task that I'm giving you to do, I want you to feel empowered to do it. Because, and I would tell her that even with you doing the editing, don't think that it's less important job, because if you don't do it, we don't have this end product. So it's
Yes.
actually a really important job.
Yes.
And and that's something that also I think gets lost in the whole communication, the whole like hierarchy of things, is that just because you're at this position doesn't mean that it's less important.
Right. 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 Or this position is more important.
Yeah.
You know, I have had occasion to tell this one day, one year, I was working, or we had this one curriculum coordinator. And okay, I've been doing my job for a really long time, and I have my own workflow, I have my own rhythm. And this curriculum coordinator had also been doing her job for a really long time. And I'm a really organized person. I plan ahead. Well, as a teacher, you have to, but I plan ahead. And I know, and I'm backwards by design, right? I plan backwards. Okay, if I have this goal at this date, when do I have to do all of the other things to get there? So I know exactly what my goalposts are to get me to the end point. And I said to her, I said, don't micromanage me. Don't keep asking, where are you? What are you doing? When is this going to be done? When I said, look, I know my job. Tell me what it is that you want in the grand scheme of things. And I said, then let me do it. And I guarantee not only am I going to do it right, and not only is it going to be on time, I'm going to have it done before the due date. And if I have any questions, I'll come and I'll ask you. But don't keep hassling me. Carolyn, what are you doing? When are you doing? Da, 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 da. I don't need that, because I know my job. You hired me for this job. So I think also it's a question of knowing your boundaries and knowing when and how to stand up for yourself. And that's not easy. And depending on the situation that you're in, I think you grow into that. right? Because I certainly never said the things that I said in my first couple of years of teaching, because you have to get the lay of the land, right? Um, but honestly, as my confidence grew and as I knew I'm a really good teacher and I do know what I'm doing, so don't tell me what to do. So, and the thing is, it goes back to what we were talking about before. Nobody likes being told what to do.
Yeah.
So
And I
don't
think
tell.
it also is it's actually a really good example, even like with somebody who is at the, let's say you have to report back to the person. If you're proactive and you tell them, hey, I'm planning to do this, because a lot of times for them, they might be like, they want to have that reassurance
Yeah,
that, okay, I know that you got it. And if somebody's proactive and they give the information up
yeah,
ahead, it's like, okay, cool. You got it. It depends
yeah,
on the person, of course, but it always goes like two ways. And it's so,
yeah.
for me, it's so interesting how there's so many things, and even like I'm actually curious to hear your experience on this. I have heard that, or like one of my connections is a teacher, and it sounds like the teaching environment can be quite toxic.
Oh, totally. As I say, from what I'm reading on these Facebook threads, good grief. Like, bullying behavior, not only from colleagues, but from administration, from kids, and from parents. And the thing is, in terms from what so many teachers are reporting, is that the administrators aren't doing anything about the bullying from parents or the disruptive behavior. And things are just being let go. And the disruptive classroom behavior is so, well, not only is it disruptive, but that is one of the most stressful things that a teacher experiences. Because if you've got a disruptive classroom, if you've got one kid who's constantly disrupting the learning, you can't get anything done. And in terms of everything that's happening that teachers are having to deal with now, I was really, really shocked. A while ago, on one of these teacher Facebook threads, one of the teachers commented and said that she found her tree. And a couple other people said, oh, they found their tree. When I asked what that was, I was told that some people are in such distress that they have found a tree they're going to drive into on their way home from work so that they can become incapacitated so that they don't have to go to work. Not incapacitated too much, but enough to be written off work. And there was a teacher from the UK in this group, and she said, "Well, in the UK, we don't call it finding a tree. We call it finding a bridge or finding a wall." And when I read that, I mean, not only is that heartbreaking, but it just left me speechless that teachers are in such distress that this is what is on their mind. And you have to ask, when teachers are feeling like this, or they drive to the school in the morning and they simply can't bear the thought of getting out of the car and heading into the school, or they're running out of the bathroom, or they're running out of the classroom to the bathroom in the middle of a lesson or the day to cry. It makes you have to ask, well, how much teaching and learning is going on if this is the environment that the kids are in, and this is the environment that the teachers are in? So I don't know. That's why my mission is to help as many of my colleagues as I can. And I came to this actually through my own revelation, about
It usually happens that way, I think.
yeah, right, right. It just kind of, I
Yeah.
don't know. You get hit
I
on the head
got into
with a revelation.
psychology by trying to fix myself, so
Yeah, exactly. Well, about 5 years ago, I had a health scare. And I was given the second chance at life. And I was grappling with, well, what do I do with this gift that I've been given? Because I need to honor that somehow. Otherwise, what? It would be for nothing, right? And so in the meantime, I had taken training in RTT and in hypnotherapy because I'd always been interested in the brain and the mind and the body and that whole connection. Excuse me. And when I found out what a powerful tool RTT was, I realized that the way that I could best give back and honor this second chance I was given would be to help as many of my colleagues as I can, because I know about teaching, I know about education, I know teachers. And this is the way that I can help, because there is so much help that is needed out there, so much more help than can be provided, do you know? And I think that when you think of a classroom, it's kind of like your own. It's kind of like your own environment, your own company, and the teacher is the CEO of the company. And and if we think that water runs downhill, so the company is only as good as the person at the top. Well, if the teacher is in such distress, she's crying in the bathroom, well, then that's going to affect what's happening in the classroom. So what I think of this as, or I visualize this as, if I can help one teacher, then it's like dropping a pebble and seeing the ripple effects, because that teacher affects the kids who go home and affect the parents, and the parents, affect the community, and so on and so on. But I think there's so much need for help out there. I don't want to drop just a pebble. I want to drop a big boulder so that the ripples go out exponentially, because there is so much need for help. And I think the really important message that I do want to get out there is that there's help available. Like, there's no reason to be trying to deal with this kind of trouble, with this kind of stress on your own. I mean, 45 years ago, when I was a young teacher, as I said, yes, I had things I had to deal with, but if there was help, where would I have found it? There was no internet back then the way there is now. How would I have found the help that I needed? I had to navigate those challenges by myself, and it was not easy. But with all of the help that there's available now, it's just getting the message out there and getting people to the point where they realize that if they don't get help, then what? What is the cost of not getting help? What is the cost to your own personal, physical, mental, and emotional health? What's the cost to your family and your relationships? What's the cost to your colleagues and to your kids? And what is the cost if you stay if you stay stuck? And, staying stuck is a choice. And as you know, we don't move forward until we're ready to move forward, right? And some people don't ever move forward. And I think part of the problem is when people see themselves as stuck, they think that they have to upend their whole entire life before they can make any changes. And that's not always the case. I mean, okay, I've been an international educator for 20 years now. And 20 years ago, when I decided to leave Canada, I packed my bags and moved halfway around the world because I needed to change. But that's not doable for everybody. I know that. And so maybe some people just need to change the grade level that they're at, or maybe they just change the department, or change the school, or change the school district, or maybe move across town, or maybe, if they can, move to a different city or town, or a different state or province, or a different place in the country, or around the world, or maybe even transition out of education. But you don't have to get overwhelmed by thinking you have to do all this huge thing right away. It's taking small steps, taking it incrementally, because then that's how change happens, right? You put one foot ahead of the other. That's how you move forward. So it's yeah, it's very difficult. It's very difficult for teachers. And
Sometimes I think it's even helpful if you start a new hobby or something
sure,
to some because I think any change can make big difference because it's
yes,
something that nothing changes until something changes.
something changes. Exactly. And I think that, to have teachers understand they're so exhausted, fatigued, overwhelmed, feeling helpless, feeling hopeless. The thought of doing anything different is like more than they can
Yeah.
handle. And so it's taking as small a step as just stopping for a moment and doing 5 stretches or taking 5 deep breaths before your next class comes in. Even those small things are indicating to your brain, oh, this is something different, instead of the same old, looping thoughts that are going round and round and round. So you're exactly right. It's the small changes that start to make a huge difference. It's this small change added on to this small change, added on to the next, until before you know, you've got several small changes that have led to a bigger change. And maybe it's at lunchtime, just going outside and sitting in the sunshine for 5 minutes, or walking around the block for 5 minutes, or this is what I used to do, especially during parent teacher interviews, and I was a specialist teacher, so at one point in time, I was seeing over 500 kids a week, and that was a lot of parents. So when I needed a break during my break time, even though I would put a sign on the door saying, um, I'm on lunch break, parents would still walk in because, whatever.
It's
And so,
parents.
yeah, so what I would do is I'd lock the door and I'd turn off the lights and I'd leave the room, or I'd go into a part of my classroom where if somebody was walking down the hallway, nobody could see I was there, and I had quiet time to myself because I needed to do that. And so even doing that for 5 minutes. Teachers are always so busy that there are times when by the end of the day, you realize you haven't had a chance to go to the bathroom or have a cup of tea because it's just an onslaught of things coming at you constantly the entire day. So if there is a moment when you can grab a cup of tea and lock your door and turn off the lights where you can have that in peace, that's one small change so that you can just stop and take a breath.
Yeah, it's something I call it baby steps.
Yes,
And the way
absolutely.
I describe it is you have to make it so small that it feels ridiculous not to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
It
exactly.
literally it starts there. It's I have a brilliant example with one of my friends who wanted to start reading more. Her baby step was open the book. That's it.
Yes.
Every day you
Yeah.
just need to open the book.
Yep.
Some
Yep.
days you might read, some days you might not, but at the very least you need to open the book because that's the first step to changing behavior.
Sure, sure.
And the more you start to change that behavior, you start to build new patterns and it just
Yes,
like starts to ripple down where
yes,
like you down
yes,
like soon enough you will start to see some change.
yes.
But the question I have for you, because this is something that I see so much and I have experienced a lot myself, for teachers listening that are in a place, and it doesn't have to be teachers, anybody who feels stuck, they're
Sure.
in a place that they're not happy with, they feel overwhelmed, stressed, all that, and they want to be out of it yesterday. So it's not the place that you want to like, oh, I'm okay, I have time, I can stay
Yeah,
here, do my baby steps, all that.
yeah, yeah.
They're in a place where they actually want to be out of it, but it takes time to get out. Like how
Yes,
to
it does.
navigate it? What would be your advice to go
Yes.
through that?
Again, it would be, you need to start to make an exit plan. And what does that exit plan look like? So you have to know, like financially, for example, how um when could you, at the earliest point in time financially, when can you get out of of teaching. So you have to be very, very clear about that, right? Or um, again, financially, okay, you might have to stay for another year or 2 years, for example. So I think one of the first things is when you see that you are starting to make a plan, that's enough to kind of give you a breath of relief going, oh,
And something to look forward to.
yes, it's something to look forward to. And it's something that is your very own that you can work on a little bit by little bit every day. And it starts to shift that whole, down in the depths of despair because you see an end goal, right? And so then that exit plan is okay. If you need to change careers, then you need then start doing a little bit of research. Where would you like to end up? Curriculum design or totally out of education. Okay, then you need to start researching what, or if you want to stay in teaching but not in the classroom, what can you do to stay in education but not in the classroom? Is there something in your community, in your school district? You need to start doing a bit of research. And then if you want to transition out, then you need to, again, look at what in the corporate world would you like to go? What skills do you need to upskill? And one of the things that so many teachers have difficulty doing is taking their teaching skills and everybody says, yes, well, if you're a teacher, you can transition into anything. That depends. But what you need to do is you need to take those teaching skills and in your CV and resume, you need to rewrite those skills in corporate language that the people out there understand. You can't say, I'm an expert at classroom management. What does somebody in banking, for example, what does that mean to somebody in banking or in IT? That means nothing to them. So if you have to find out what are the teaching skills that you have, and then rewrite that in language that people out there are going to understand. If you don't know how to do that, then again, it comes back to research. You need to find somebody who can do that for you. And there are also, I've seen, there are also teacher groups where the focus is specifically on transitioning out of teaching, workshops on that. Again, do a bit of research. But it all comes down to you have to take the first few steps. And if it means getting out a blank sheet of paper and writing at the top, this is my exit plan, then that's your first step. And I think also brainstorming everything that's in your brain, just getting it out on paper. This is what I'd like to do. This is what I don't want to do. This is what my skills are. This is what this is what I don't know. This is what I have to upskill on. And then you look at all of that and then you start putting it into categories and then patterns will start to appear. But you have to take the first step and think, okay, exit strategy. After I know financially what I need to do, and speaking about the whole financial aspect, how long can you go financially? Can you go without a job before you find your next chapter? I mean, some people find that their contract has not been renewed for whatever reason. All of a sudden, they're out of a job, and now what do? So you have to really take care of that financial piece first, so that without a doubt how how much longer do you need to stay to get this in place. And some people, here's another thing. Some people forget that they have these extra skills. Like maybe they are a really great baker. So while they're planning their exit strategy and they want to acquire more, maybe they can do some baking and sell their baking. Or maybe they're good at sewing and they can do seamstress type things to add money to the pot to help them get out of their situation. or maybe they're great at painting houses or house building, whatever. What are your extra skills? Are you babysitting? Can you do some tutoring to earn extra money to get you out of your position? So it's thinking about possibilities. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. When we're in the depths of despair, all we can see is that we think our life is just a one big muck and it's one big mess and there's no way of ever getting out of it. But here's the thing. With rapid transformational therapy, what we do is we use hypnosis to access the subconscious to find out what are your limiting beliefs that are keeping you stuck. Because the thing about limiting beliefs is many of us don't even know that limiting beliefs are driving our behavior. We just know that we're in this dead-end job. We can't seem to get out. We're in the same relationship. We have the same financial difficulty, but we don't know why. And so I like to think of limiting beliefs like an anchor as it relates to a boat. You know, the anchor is underneath the surface of the water. We don't see the anchor, but we just know it's there because the boat is not moving. Well, limiting beliefs are like an anchor to your subconscious. The limiting belief is keeping us stuck. And so we think there's no way out of this job. We think there's nothing else that we can do, that we're going to have to stay there forever. But when we cut the chain that's attaching the anchor to the boat, then the boat can move. When we cut the chain of when we cut what's holding the limiting belief to your subconscious, when we find out where you acquired that limiting belief and why, then we can flip that belief into a belief that serves you. And then you can fly, and then you can live the life you envision, because then we start to remember our superpowers, like, oh, I sold my first painting. I had my first baby. I bought my first house. Oh, I'm a baker. I can sell my baking to get more money, or I can mow lawns, or I'm a great gardener. I can help people set up their garden, whatever. Then we start to remember our beliefs, our superpowers, and then we start seeing possibilities. Possibilities start to open up to us. But as long as we keep asking, why does the same thing keep happening? You know, your brain is going to show you why. It's going to get you into all these situations to show you why. The question we need to ask is, what do I need to do now? And as soon as you ask that, then your brain starts generating possibilities. That's the question to be asking. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but there are so many facets to it, you know?
It's something that as we were talking, I was thinking that how many people actually have never stopped and thought, what is it that I actually want?
Exactly.
Because having a vision, it's been really interesting for me as well, because in many ways, like I even like with some clients that I would work with, I see how they are in that they have this glass ceiling, and I know I have plenty of those myself as well, and I
Sure.
keep trying to break through them and
Sure.
but I could see how they're so stuck in this, oh, this is the way that things work, this is the way I approach it, or they don't start with, what do I actually want, what do I like? Even like with teachers, what from the whole teaching process do you actually enjoy the most? Is there a way how I can do more of that,
Exactly.
or
Exactly.
focus on that? And at the same time, with what you want, it's kind of, I like how Jordan Peterson talks about it, how usually we need, or it works if we have two motivations. One is what we're running away from, which is this misery that we don't like, but the other one is what we're going towards. And a lot of times we are really aware of what we don't like because we have been living it.
Yep.
But we might not even know what is it that we want, which is okay. Because sometimes it's enough to just, and this was a big shift for me. I heard somebody talk about it, where many times people are like, oh, I don't know what's my purpose, I don't know, and all that. Some people know, some people don't. But all of us, we know where we don't want to be.
That's exactly
And then
right.
at the very simplest level, you can just focus on getting as far away from that as you can. Just do that. What are some of the steps that I can take today to get one step away from feeling this way or being this way? And I think big one also is the bridging the gap between where I am and where I want to be. But you have to,
Yes.
and
Yes.
actually with this, with people that don't know where they want to be, okay, write down what you don't like and then write the opposite of that.
Yes. Yes. And a really important question that I ask my clients, like when we're doing the intake call, it's not the therapy part, but we do a very detailed intake call where I ask them questions and so on and so forth. But the really important question is, what would your life be like without this problem, whatever it is? What would your life be like? And so we delve into it in as much detail as possible. What would you look like? What would you physically look like if you didn't have this fear of public speaking? What would your eyes look like? How would you stand? How would you walk? What would your voice sound like? What thoughts would be going on in your head about yourself? What would other people be saying about you? And the thing is, it's so important to future pace. That is, seeing in the future. Because if you don't have anything to go towards, then how are you going to move forward? And so in as much detail as is possible. And that whole life without the problem piece that the client gives me becomes a very important piece in their transformation recording, because we give them a recording that they have to listen to for a minimum of 21 days to establish new neural pathways, right? Because things are going to start to change, right? But it's it's very interesting when we're in a session, and when we've done the regression and when we've gone back to access through the hypnosis and have accessed the subconscious, and we're talking about the limiting belief, and the client is talking about, well, where this fear of public speaking, for example, came from, and how did they feel, and what was being said, and so on and so forth. As the session progresses, sometimes it's so visible to see the client physically change, because in the middle of a session, even while they're in hypnosis, all of a sudden their shoulders go back and they start to have a smile on their face. And I had a client, her voice started to change as she was talking. It was phenomenal when you release that, and then you're free to live the way you want to live, But that whole future self is such an important piece,
And I
So,
think good reminder there is that if you can envision it, you can be it.
yes, absolutely. Because, as you well know, the brain, the subconscious doesn't know whether what you're telling it is real or not. And so, yeah, it's funny. I've often done this recently when I've been in the gym and the trainer wants me to do a particular whatever it is. And right away, what comes out of my mouth is, oh man, that's going to be hard. And then I'm going, no, wait. This is so easy. Carolyn, this is so easy. Carolyn, you're like an Olympic athlete when you do this, and it changes your physiology immediately. So it's so important to have a vision, even a small piece of what it is that you want. And the rest can be filled in, right? But you have to start with that one small piece, that one small step forward.
It's actually one thing that I'm doing with my calendar. I have a big year calendar on my wall, and I put on there events that I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it happen, but it would be cool if I could be able to like go there, do this, do that, and I just put it on the wall. And I'm looking at it regularly. I'm like, okay, what's coming up? And I just look at it and I'm like, oh, it's still there. But it's kind of like you start to get used to it,
Yeah.
and soon enough, it's like, you know what? I'm just gonna pull the plug. I'm gonna go for it, and or you find a way to make it happen. And it's actually it's a concept that I like to call it commit before you're ready.
Yes.
You commit to it, and But commitment piece is big one. I have had conversations with people also with the race that I did, half Ironman.
Yeah.
I signed up to it with 90 days to train. Usually it takes 6 to 8 months, and I could barely finish like half marathon, which is what you finish that triathlon with.
Yep. Yep.
And I have 90 days to prep. At the moment that I sign up, I'm not in shape or form to finish it at all. I
Yeah.
haven't been on a road bike ever in my life. I haven't really done open water swims, nothing like that. And I have 90 days to figure it out. And in that moment, a lot of times before, I would be in a place where I was like, well, I need to be sure that I'll be able to finish
Uh-huh.
it. Only
Uh-huh.
then I'm going to sign up.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
time I was like, you know what? Let's see. It's like a little experiment. Let's see if within 90 days I can prep for it. And even in the race day, I didn't have anxiety. I didn't have fear because I didn't make it mean anything. I was more
Yeah.
so, okay, today I'm going to find out if 90 days of what I did is enough
Yeah. Yeah.
to actually finish the race, which it was. But
Yeah.
if I didn't pull the plug, if I didn't go through the whole process, I would have yet another story of what I can or can't do instead
Yes.
of, let's see if I can challenge this
Yes.
belief that I
Yes.
have about myself.
Yes. Yeah.
And if I don't get it done, okay, I learned that 90 days probably is a bit too short. I need more
Yeah. Yeah.
training.
Yeah. That was your old story, and now this is your new story. And it's so true. Like the procrastination, well, I'll do it when everything's, it's a sign of perfectionism. We're not going to do
Yeah.
unless it's perfect. Well, nothing is
Or
ever
I
perfect.
feel ready or
Yeah, but
confident.
it's our fear of not of it not being perfect. Now, so I recently took a workshop, and the workshop presenter said, and I took away two really important things. The workshop presenter said, when you say I can't, it means you must. And the other thing was, like you said, like you commit, right? The other thing he said was, he had this phrase he said, burn the boats, because he said in one of the ancient cultures, when they were getting ready. Now I may have not have all of these details correct, but in one of the ancient cultures, when they went to attack an island, for example, the leader of the army or whatever would say to the people, burn the boats, because there was no turning back. You have to do this, and you have to conquer whoever you want. Otherwise, there's nothing. There's nothing else. You must do it. And so, your commitment is, yes, that's burning the boats. It's like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm doing this.
And then also accountability is important because for me, I started to not journal it. I started to share it online. I was like, okay, there's 90 days, and I'm like, what have I done?
Yeah.
And every day I would post like how much I'm training and all that kind of stuff, which also helped me with like accountability.
Sure.
But also, one thing that I learned that I didn't expect that, because even with running, I'm at the very best average. I don't like. I don't like the word hate. I usually say I dislike it with passion. I really don't like it. And I remember I would have conversations with people, and first of all, after my half Ironman, I had 2 people message me that they want to sign up this year to do it, and I'm like, what? Really? That's when I learned you don't have to have huge following to inspire people.
Yeah.
One of them actually keeps sending me updates on how he's progressing, got the bike, everything. And I'm like, wow, this is so cool. Then secondly, with running, I learned that you don't have to be this super perfect, fast runner to inspire people. Because for me, with me being average, I give others permission to go and try.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly right. So yay, good on you. That's really good. Really great. Because, as getting back to this whole perfectionism, it's like we think we have to be perfect before we can be the runner or the cyclist or the swimmer, So, um, I'm again on some of these teacher Facebook threads, some of these young teachers, like first, second year teachers, are talking about how they feel as though they're a failure, da, 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 blah, 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 blah. And, I remember feeling that as a young teacher as well. But a friend of mine's, and they were talking about they feel like an imposter and all this other stuff. But a friend of mine, when we were talking about this, she said, Carolyn, it's not imposter syndrome, it's beginner's syndrome. You've never done it before, and yet we expect that we have to be perfect at it. And we've never done it before. And the thing is, and then when you expect that, there isn't any space to give yourself grace. There isn't any space for you to make a gajillion mistakes that you're going to make as you're learning a new skill. That's how you become an expert. It's by making a gajillion mistakes. Then you know what not to do,
Yep.
and so it's like these young teachers, I've said to as many as I can, you have to give yourself grace because you're just learning this. I didn't feel comfortable in the classroom I'm pretty sure until at least 5 years of experience I had, probably 10. Now I know I'm a really great teacher, and that's 45 years later. But it's as with anything, the perfectionism. It makes us not want to start anything. And just like, getting back to your question about somebody who knows that they want to transition out or do something else, they want to have the perfect plan. Well, what's the perfect plan? Or
You
they
know
want
what's even better? It's like I realized it about podcasts. I was trying to map everything out from A to Z before I have
Yeah,
started the first step. And with that, if you haven't done it, you can't even predict what can go wrong.
exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Or what
And
can go right.
yeah, right, right. And so, yeah, I want to, I tend to be a what if person. What if this happens? Then I'll have this plan. What if that happens? Then I'll have that plan. And then, 9 times out of 10, everything works out fine. I didn't need 10 different plans, but it's wanting to be safe,
Yep.
you know, wa-
Certainty.
safe. And it's the certainty. And man, life is just filled with uncertainties. It's like, and then that's where, we talked before the podcast, you mentioned resilience. That's where resilience comes in. It's when everything is so uncertain and we think that we have things in our control, but we don't. We don't have anything in our control. Nothing.
Yeah.
And so I think that a big man, if people have resilience, it's like they can walk through fire practically. Do you know? And you don't know the resilience you have until you've had to walk through fire. You really don't. And then you go, "Oh, I guess I just walked through fire." It's like when I had that health scare, I'm going, well, I don't want to do that again. And that was pretty scary. And you had to dig down deep to find like, I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't. And so I don't know why I went off on this topic, but it had something to do with what we were talking about,
I
resilience.
think I think another one is that with even like with burning the actually this is what I wanted to add with the example of the half Ironman. One thing that I think people always ask, like, oh, did you believe you can do it? And I'm like, I knew I can't do it on the day that I signed up. I knew it.
Yeah.
I'm not physically in a place where I can do it. But also I have learned that you don't have to believe it to do it. Belief comes along the way as you are
Yes,
doing it.
as you're doing it. Exactly. That's exactly right. And when I first went overseas, of course, my first international post was in Singapore, and my family happened to be very concerned about me doing this. Like, are you sure you can do? Yeah, no, I don't know if I'm sure. And in order to have a little safety net in the school district that I was at, that was at a point in time where you could take a 2-year leave of absence and go and do, I don't know, whatever it was you wanted to do. And then you had a job to come back to in 2 years' time. Not necessarily the same job, but you still had a job in the district. I had that piece of paper because I didn't know if I was going to last more than 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, when I had to tell them, no, I'm not coming back, it's like, I could hardly type the sentence. That was
Yep.
weird. That was weird. Am I doing the right thing? Well, yeah, as you say, I didn't know if I was doing the right thing until after I did it. And then like 20 years later, I'm still overseas,
There
so it was
isn't
the right thing.
It's something that I have thought of. Like, I don't think there's a right or wrong thing. There's a thing and you make it right. Like,
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
we
And
just overthink it. Oh, what's the right thing for me? One thing that I do like to say is that usually I try to check in with myself, my intuition. What does feel right? Not what makes sense, because a lot of things that I have done, they don't make sense, but they end up being some of the greatest decisions that I have made.
yes,
Even like
yes,
moving here, it wasn't like, oh, there's this logical plan. I just came to visit my friend here over the weekend. I liked it. And I was like, oh, I kind of like it here. And she was like, well, if you moved here, we could do this and that. And
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, I'm not planning to move here. And
yeah,
after that weekend, she just messaged me the next day. And she's like, well, if you want to move here, my friend is
yeah,
looking for somebody to rent a flat. And I was like, okay, I might as well. So 2 months later, I
yeah,
moved here.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's
yeah.
so many great experiences that have come from that, but it
Yes,
wasn't the
yes.
plan.
No, and when I clearly remember that 20 years ago when I was at the airport, my family and close friends came to see me off, and we're all kind of a little nervous and we're all a little teary because I'm stepping into the great unknown. I mean, I'd never been to Asia before, and and they said, "Oh, Carolyn, like you're so brave." It wasn't that. It's just I was so miserable where I was,
Yeah.
I had to do something. I had to
That was
get
your only option.
unstuck. That was my only option that I could see because I was I was just turning 50, just getting ready to turn 50. And at the time, where I was living, it was so expensive. I couldn't afford to travel. I couldn't afford to go anywhere. I couldn't afford to do anything. I had a 15-year-old Honda Civic car with 250,000 kilometers on it. And I thought, if this thing breaks down, I don't have money to
You're
buy it.
literally stuck.
I'd be literally stuck. I was the only single person in the schools that I was teaching at because I was out in the suburbs, and it's like, okay, 20 years ago, how am I going to go and meet anybody and develop friendships? Because again, there wasn't the internet the way there is now, and all of that. And I didn't have the gas to go and drive all the way around town, right? And then, but the thing that really, really was the last straw is that every school that I went into, when I went into the staff rooms, the only thing that people were talking about happened to be how many years, months, weeks, and days they had until retirement. And
Oh,
some of these people had 15 years until retirement. And I'm going, good grief. And I was thinking, well, I'm almost 50. If I retire at 65, how am I going to stand listening to 15 more years of this misery? I got to get out of this. And so so then I discovered the world of international teaching by watching what a friend was doing. She went to Cairo for a year, and I'm going, man, she is traveling. She's making more money. She's having more fun. I need to check this out. So I did. And 20 years later, I'm still overseas. But it wasn't a question of being courageous. That was my only option left. And it was either stay stuck or go, you
yeah.
know?
And I think it's also this illusion that all these big changes are driven by positive emotions.
Right, right. I mean,
I
and I
got
get,
inspired.
yeah. Well, sometimes, but when, for example, people have a weight issue, when they get, sometimes somebody might get to a point where they are sick and tired and fed up of asking for a seatbelt extension on the plane. They're just
Yep,
not going to do it
that's all
anymore.
you need.
Exactly. Like, what is the wall that you hit? Well, I shouldn't use that since we talked about hitting
Yeah.
a wall. But what is the final straw that
Yeah.
makes it so that you say something has to change? It has to change. And the other thing that I want to say is that um when we are feeling this angst, um it's okay to talk to friends. That's okay. But if our friends are experiencing the same thing, then it just turns into a venting situation and nothing gets solved. It's just people getting
Or
together.
you compete whose situation is worse.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Or if you are the only person who is dissatisfied with their situation, do you know, after a while, your friends just don't want to hear it anymore. And it's like, either do something about your situation
Yeah.
or don't. But if you're not going to, we just don't want to hear about it anymore. And so your friends can't help because it's not their job to provide that kind of help. You have to go and find the help that you need, whether it's talking to a therapist or joining a support group or something. But you have to take that step, right? I remember years ago when I had my own hypnotherapy sessions for stuff, right? And I remember one day very clearly saying to the therapist, you know, I cannot believe I'm sitting here paying you this huge hourly rate for just being my friend, because you know, I was telling him all the things that my friends didn't want to hear anymore. And so it's really critical that people find um, a group, a person, somebody that they can talk to other than their friends, their family, their colleagues, right? Because then there are also the well-meaning friends, the well-meaning family members who say who pour the guilt on a teacher, for example, saying, "Well, what do you mean you want to leave that job? You get all these summers off. You get all this time off. What could possibly be so wrong? You know, and you've gone to school, you've done all these years of university, and what, you're just going to throw it away? You should be lucky you have a job." Wah, 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 wah.
This actually is, it's such a, sometimes when I talk to people, I'm literally the first person that tells them, but you can do more. You can think even bigger.
Yeah,
And they're like, nobody has ever told me that. Everybody's like, oh, when will be enough for you? Or they will
yeah,
be just like trying to put some doubt into them or things like that, try to hold
yeah,
them down. It's not intentional, of course. They're kind of protecting themselves in some way by doing that. But it's, if it's the closest people, it will affect you. And it's, there's so many people that when I talk to them, it's the first time when they're like, this is so refreshing, where I share my dream or my goal with somebody and they don't try to give some
yeah,
negativity towards it.
yeah, yeah. It's giving yourself the permission to have that dream, to have that goal. But I don't know. You know, I think having said that, now I'm thinking, I think it gets back to a limiting belief that
Yeah.
a person might hold about, well, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm not enough. My parents made only X number of dollars in business. I can't possibly make more money than them. And they start to feel guilty, you know. So, or nobody in my family has ever been a triathlete, right? And so it's all of those, it's those limiting beliefs that are causing people to stay stuck and listen to the stuff that everybody else is saying without establishing any boundaries. Because maybe the
Yeah.
limiting belief is, I'm not good enough to have boundaries. I'm not good enough to have my own dreams. I mean, whatever the limiting belief is, right? But you know, it's very interesting. The woman who developed RTT, or rapid transformational therapy, is Marissa Peer. Now she is a famous therapist to Olympic athletes, the stars, you know, soccer clubs, so on and so. Anyhow, and she has said that in all of her years and the thousands of clients she's had, that there are only 3 things that are wrong with people, because despite it doesn't matter what the details are, the underlying limiting beliefs are one of 3. Either I'm not good enough, I can't connect, or I can't get what I want.
Hmm.
And all maybe they have one of those, maybe they have 2 of them, or all 3 of them, but those 3 beliefs come cloaked in all kinds of different things, right? And that's what it pretty much gets down to. So
Yeah. Last 2 questions I have for you.
yes.
I'm curious, what are some of the things you learned about yourself in 45 plus years of being a teacher?
Um, I learned that I can most definitely speak up for myself. I've learned that I can set boundaries, like with parents, for example, because the thing is, um, you know, everybody has been to school. So everybody who's not a teacher thinks they know what teaching is all about because everybody's been to school. And that's as ridiculous as me saying, I know how to do an appendectomy because I've sat in a doctor's office lots of times over the years. So am I going to tell the doctor what to do? No. But parents think they can tell a teacher what to do. And I've said to parents, you see that lineup of people behind me? They all want to tell me what to do too. So get in line. So I've been able to stand up for myself. I've been able to establish clear boundaries. And I know that I'm a really great teacher because over the years, for most of those 45 years, I've been a music, a music specialist, a drama specialist, and a children's creative dance specialist. And I've had kids who we have had hours and hours of fun dancing and singing and pretending and acting. But I have to tell you, when I was a young teacher, now this shook my confidence, and a little 5-year-old did this, Um, we had just had a creative dance class combined with drama. And we had such a great time. And we were doing, I don't know, giants and I don't know, whatever. And everybody was filing out of the room. And this little kid was the last kid coming out of the room and looked up at me and very seriously asked me, have you ever been a real teacher? And out he or she skipped. And I was so young and dumb going, what do you mean? What do you mean? Said to the class, what do you mean? What an insult. I'm not a real teacher. And then it was only years later that I came to understand that that little kid at 5 years of age already had an idea of what a teacher was. A teacher makes you sit in a desk and you do pencil and paper stuff and math and reading and all that kind of stuff. But if you get to come in and play and pretend, well, that's not a real teacher.
Yeah.
And I thought, that kid gave me the best compliment he could ever have given me. And so for all of the remaining years of my teaching experience, I tried not to be a real teacher. So, we
You
laugh.
literally taught them such a big lesson that learning can be fun.
Yes, yes, that's exactly right. And it's supposed to be, but, it's not anymore because of standards and all the other stuff that's going on out there, So, anyhow,
Yeah. All right, before I ask you the last question, where can people connect with you, learn about you?
okay. Will there be my link to my website?
Yeah, we have everything
O-
in the show notes as
Okay.
well.
Okay. People can contact me on my website, carolynborashypnotherapy.com. They can also email me, Carolyn at carolynborishypnotherapy.com. I'm also on Instagram and I'm also on Facebook. So,
All right.
if people want to find out more, I would love to help as many people as I can. So if people want to find out more, if they have questions, they can book a free 20-minute discovery call with me and we can talk about what's possible.
Love it. All right, last question I have for you. What is one piece of wisdom you're still learning to live?
I'm still learning to let go of some things that I think I can control. Because, for example, next week, I'm moving house, like just across town. But I've got in my head all of these scenarios. Well, am I going to get this and that? And I have to remind myself, Carolyn, it always all works out. Just relax because the universe got whatever you want to call it, always sorts it out way better than you ever could. So all the answers will come.
Yeah, let go and trust that it will work out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Well, thank you, Caroline, for coming on,
Thank you.
sharing your wisdom with us. And
Thank
to
you.
the listeners, if there's any of you with 20 plus years experience and you want to come on and share your wisdom, there'll be details below. And if you want to start a podcast, be on more podcasts, or need help managing your podcast, there'll be information below as well. Thank you for tuning in, and you'll see you in the next episode.